Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope, and this video where I'm going to have the table prediction for this upcoming 2025-2026 Premier League season, and I'm also going to talk about each and every team's 3 best FPL options as well. So it's going to be a bit of a joint Premier League / FPL video, but it's going to be heavily FPL slanted, of course, because this is an FPL channel after all. So I'm going to go through each and every team from 20th predicted team to the first predicted team, like number 1 team that is going to be the champion of the Premier League, in that order basically. So let's start off with number 20, and I have Burnley predicted to be last in the Premier League, mainly because they got promoted with like pretty bad underlying numbers in terms of what they actually got for conceded goals, especially. Like they conceded very few goals last season, which was the main reason they went up. But they should have conceded a lot more. It was basically down to James Trafford being a hero. That was the fact that they were so good defensively. But now James Trafford is gone. Egan Riley has gone from the central defense as well. They've also lost Josh Brownhill in midfield, and they haven't really replaced them with any like super good players either. So I think Burnley are the worst team in the Premier League currently this season. But thankfully for us, the goalkeeper change has provided us some goods in terms of FPL. Dubravka, who's one of the most picked players currently in FPL in terms of your squads currently. He is 4.0 and he's the only starting 4.0 goalkeeper we know for sure this season. So he's the best option from Burnley. Esteve is also someone that is pretty popular in FPL currently because he's a 4.0 defender who's going to get a lot of defensive contribution points. But I don't think that many clean sheets will come as well for Burnley because I think they will struggle a lot defensively compared to last season. So yeah, I don't think that there's too many good assets from Burnley apart from Dubravka and Esteve. But I've still gone with Marcus Edwards, who's a 5.0 midfielder who could potentially be on penalties and maybe some other set pieces as well. He's a bit of an interesting player. I think he could be a pretty high upside player at some points of the season if they have good matches and he's in good form, if he even gets to play as well. But yeah, it's not the best players for Burnley and not the best team, so 20th position for them. Let's move on to number 19. Number 19, I have Leeds, again, one of the newly promoted sides, and another team that hasn't really strengthened enough for my liking. I think offensively especially, they're going to struggle quite a bit. I think defensively, they might actually be pretty good, but they have like some like lackluster positions in their squad. I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin seems like their new striker now. He's probably going to be 6.0, 6.5 potentially maybe, which would be way too high. I think 6.0 would be the best price point for him. It seems like he's going to go to Leeds. Not really sold on that transfer either because Calvert-Lewin has been pretty bad for a long time now. I don't think Leeds have that many good players, and I think they're going to go down as the 19th team since they haven't really strengthened enough for my liking pretty much. When it comes to their FPL options, I think Stach in midfield is going to get some defensive contribution points for 5.0, so I think he's going to be like a steady Eddie 5.0 type of guy, but I don't really think he's going to be that nice either. But that's one of the benefits of like having players from Leeds that have defensive contribution points. He's not going to get minus points from conceding goals like the defenders will do. So I think actually the defensive contribution midfielders and forwards, if there are any, from the worst teams, will be better off than the defenders. Because the defenders, like Esteve, for example, for Burnley, they're going to concede a lot of goals. So they're going to get minus points for every 2 goals that they concede and also less bonus points and stuff. I think Stach, or however you say that, Stash, I think he is someone that could get more points consistently because he's not going to get that minus point from from conceding like 4 or 5 goals, which could happen for these newly promoted teams basically. Also have a defender, Rodon, in defense 4.0, another one who can get some good defensive contribution points and hopefully not concede too many goals because I think Leeds will be actually decent defensively, at least compared to the other promoted sides basically. Also, just Willianto is someone that I really like as a player, Italian winger who's really fun to watch. It would be nice to see him be good in FPL. He was kind of good last time he was up in the Premier League, but again, not enough for like a really good, interesting player in my opinion either. But yeah, he's a fun player to watch at least, so he's my 3rd favorite option for Leeds at 19th. 18th, and yes, I've gone with sort of the boring, I guess, thing of the 3 newly promoted sides just go straight down again. But I think this is actually kind of not unique, obviously, but this is sort of like not the normal thing to do. Like it seems like most people are looking for a different team to put there down with 2 other of the newly promoted sides to not have the same thing happen for the 3rd time in a row where all 3 newly promoted teams go straight back down again. But I think that's the most likely. I think those 3 teams are the worst teams. I know Sunderland have signed a lot of players. All of the players you can see here that I've suggested are new players, but it's not going to be easy to get all those players playing at the same time, being really good and providing the goods for Sunderland. And I think you have to really make your mark. If you want to do that tactic like Nottingham Forest did a couple of years back, and they barely made it as well, they almost went down. They signed some really good players in Morgan Gibbs-White, for example. Chris Wood was much better than expected. They had some really nice signings that really helped them stay up in the Premier League. And I think Sunderland will have to be basically almost flawless when it comes to their signings. And I think their signings have been good. I think they're pretty good, but I don't think it's enough, sadly, for them to stay up this season. Mark Guiu for 4.5 is my favorite player because he's just really cheap and he's going to start most likely and potentially get some goals as well. I think he has really good potential. So 4.5, I think he's a decent player, but maybe not from the start of the season because he's going to be a bit injured. But yeah, of course, if you want to just stash him for a long time, you can definitely have him. But I think he's not going to play as much as he's working himself back into fitness first before he gets into the team. So he might drop down to 4.4 before you know it, really. But long term, I think he's going to be really good. Adingra, I think, is going to be a really nice player in midfield. He had some really good moments for Brighton last season, but he's also been a bit up and down, and he has some drawbacks when it comes to regular play that makes him not the best player. But he is a pretty good FPL option. I think for Game Week 2 when they play Burnley, I think he can be actually a really sneakily good option as well for that game week. I like him kind of more than starting the season with Elliot Anderson from Nottingham Forest, for example, who I think will just consistently give you like between 2 to 4 points, but you're not going to lose many points if you don't start the season with him because he's going to get, what, like 4 points at most, 7 points at most. So you don't really lose out many points with Elliot Anderson. He's more of a long-term pick that you can just have for the entirety of the season, basically, and just play. But anyways, not talking about Nottingham Forest or Elliot Anderson there, but I just wanted to make that point on Adingra in general. Xhaka as well. Going to get some defense contribution points, but really just like a 5.0 player who starts and gets some points extra. And like I said, with the Leeds pick as well, the midfielders are probably where the potential is for defensive contribution points when it comes to the newly promoted sides rather than defenders, because you don't get minus points from conceding a lot of goals, which I think all these promoted teams will do and will make sure that they all go down again back to the championship. Number 17, the team that is going to be the closest to going down but will slightly stay in the Premier League, or almost by the skin of their teeth stay in the Premier League, is going to be Brentford, in my opinion. They've lost, obviously, their coach in Thomas Frank. They're losing Mbeumo. They're also potentially, most likely, losing Wissa. That's what I've sort of assumed here with my 3 best picks, because I assume if Wissa goes out, I think Igor Thiago could be a starting striker for Brentford. It seems most likely it's going to be him. They are linked to a couple other strikers, but I think Igor Thiago has a decent chance of making that spot his own, especially if he starts off the season pretty well. And I think he could do, basically. Kevin Schade is someone that I think will step up massively. Maybe I should even have him number 1 because he's more secure than Igor Thiago when it comes to playing time. But this is assuming Igor Thiago plays as a starting striker for Brentford, basically. But Schade, really, really nice player. Had some really nice moments at the end of last season. He was someone that I was eyeing for this season as well. But his price point at 7.0 is a bit too steep for my liking, I think. Was hoping he would be like 6.0, 6.5 maybe. Then maybe I would consider him. But currently, especially with the tough opening fixtures, I don't really consider him that much. Collins, been really good when it comes to defensive contribution points. I think Brentford are still pretty solid defensively, even though they lost Thomas Frank, but they have kept most of their defense anyway, and there will be like okay defensively at least. So I think that will be enough for them to stay up because they have some good players in Schade, for example, who can keep them up. And especially if they keep Wissa as well, they're going to have a much better season than 17th, potentially as well. But yeah, we'll see what happens with their new manager. It's going to be tough to predict, but losing Thomas Frank, I can see why a lot of people have them going down as well. Number 16, sorry, went the wrong way there. Wolverhampton at number 16. I don't know. I don't know what to think about Wolves. They have obviously lost 2 of their best, or if not their 2 best players in Ryan Aït-Nouri and Matthias Cunha. I think that's going to be a pretty big blow to Wolves. They did actually perform really well towards the end of last season when they took, or when Vitor Pereira took over as manager for them. So for that reason, I think they can do better. Like the end of their season last season sort of paints a better picture than ending up at number 16. But just the sales of their really good players in Cunha and Aït-Nouri, it's going to be tough to adjust to. But one of the adjustments is Agbadou, who came in halfway through last season and really helped shore up that defense for Wolves. He's one of the best defenders in like the bottom 10, especially in the Premier League. And I think he's going to get a big move to one of the better sides in the Premier League probably after this season, because he's really, really good. And he's also a defensive contributions monster. He gets a lot of defensive contribution points. I think that's going to be really good for a Wolves team that were pretty good defensively last season, and they've lost only offensive players. So defensively, they should still be pretty solid. So I think Agbadou is going to be a really nice player for 4.5. Arias in midfield, he will likely step into that role that Cunha had as like the main contributor and playmaker for Wolves. I think he's going to be a really good option for 5.5 as well. And up front, Strand Larsen for 6.5. He's going to be the main striker for Wolves. He had, 14 goal returns last season, or goals even. He scored a lot of goals last season and was really good for Wolves in his inaugural season. And I think he's a really good player. I know as a fellow Norwegian that he is a pretty talented player overall. So I really like Strand Larsen as well. Some pretty good FPL options actually from Wolves. But I think just the losses of their main guys will make it too tough for them. But I think 16th is going to be decent enough, I guess, and keeping them up for this season at least. Number 15, we have Bournemouth. Again, team that have lost a lot of important players, especially in defense now with Bournemouth. That's sort of the opposite of Wolverhampton. Bournemouth have lost Sabarni, Dean Howson, and Milos Kerkez, 3 of their main guys in defense. Basically, their whole defense is new, especially if Araujo plays at right back. And then they also replaced Arrizabalaga, who's their goalkeeper last season, with Petrovic, who I think is a better goalkeeper for what it's worth. But yeah, Bournemouth, I think they'll struggle for that reason. They have some good options offensively, of course, like Kluivert, Semenyo, some good players, Evan Nilsson up front as well, who we'll get to, of course. But I think they just have too much of a loss when it comes to their defensive sales, basically. Senesi comes in to step in and be really good defensively. They have Diakite, who comes in as well as the centre back. We'll see how good he is. At least Bournemouth's last few purchases have been really good, so they have been good at bringing in new players, so maybe that will help them again this season. But I think they're going to struggle a bit this season, even though they have a really good manager in Iraola, who I think should keep his job anyway. If they stay up at least. So yeah, Evan Nilsson, favorite striker at 7.0 basically. He gets a lot of chances, misses quite a lot of them as well, but he is also someone that is going to be a pretty good point getter for you if Bournemouth have pretty good fixtures. Senesi, I think he's going to get a lot of defensive contribution points this season. I think he'll sadly concede a bit too much to be like a super viable defender. He was in my early drafts this season, but he sort of dropped out now with all the Bournemouth players leaving. It's going to be tougher for him. I think if they kept Sabarni especially, that would have been a lot more feasible to have Senesi, but currently he's a bit of a wait and see. Both Senesi and Petrovic, I think, are wait and sees for Bournemouth. Kluivert as well, the penalty taker. He was really consistent last season, had some really high highs as well, so I think he's a pretty decent option for 7.0 as a midfielder there for Bournemouth at number 15, I think, in the table this season. Number 14, I go with my own favorite team, West Ham. I was tempted to have them 13th, but I figured this West Ham team is like the final team in the bottom tier. Matches that are basically, as you can see up in the right there, light blue on the fixture ticker, which means the second easiest potential fixture. I think West Ham's fixtures against West Ham are pretty good in total, and I think they're going to go down, or not going to go down, going to end up at 14th place. Could go higher up in the table, of course, because there are some good things about West Ham this season, namely Diouf, who have at number 2 here as one of the best picks, and also the fact that Lucas Paquetá, who's been kind of a lot worse since the allegations against him for match fixing came out. I think he's going to return to his best, and a really good Lucas Paquetá is going to help West Ham get a lot better. But I think it's just, West Ham, I can't just be too high on them because, usually that goes wrong for me with West Ham. I am sort of tempted to bring them closer to 10th spot, but I think like their high point could be that. But yeah, just going to go conservative, I guess, and get 14th, which I think most West Ham fans will actually take at this moment in time, because a lot of West Ham fans seem to be worried about getting relegated pretty much. But I think one of the reasons they will not get relegated is Jared Bowen, who's still an amazing player, one of the best attackers in the Premier League in my opinion, and also a really good player in FPL for 8.0. He's been in every single one of my drafts pretty much, not only because I'm a West Ham fan, but also because I like that first fixture against Sunderland, and also he's just a really good option overall because he keeps delivering every single season. He's someone that could get 200 points easily. Even though he's not a forward, he's going to get less points from that, but he's also going to get more bonus points whenever he scores goals as well, which is going to be a huge plus for Bowen. Diouf has been fantastic in preseason. I think he's going to be helping West Ham a lot. West Ham's fullbacks are really, really good with Diouf and Wan-Bissaka on each fullback. Kyle Walker-Peters, who's an amazing fullback in the Premier League, in my opinion at least. He's going to be a backup, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I wish he was a midfielder because West Ham could really use a midfielder currently. But Paquetá is going to help them as well. Fulkrug, I think, is going to have a much better season than last season when he was injured a lot. He is a German international. He's a really good player overall. I think he's going to show that, and I think he's a pretty good option for 6.0. He's someone that I would definitely consider as well if I didn't have Bowen myself. But since I have Bowen, I can't really double up on West Ham attack. That seems a bit crazy. So yeah, Fulkrug for 6.0 is also a really good option for West Ham, who will finish at 14th this season, in my prediction at least. Number 13, we have Nottingham Forest, who I was tempted to bring even below West Ham, but I think Forest just have a pretty solid squad, especially defensively. As you can see, all 3 picks are defensive-minded picks. But Forest have lost Elanga, who was a really important player for Forest last season. Also struggled towards the end of the season. Kind of hit a speed bump and couldn't really recover, and ended up in like a Conference League place, but now they're in the Europa League as well, which I think will be another detriment to their season because they're going to have a lot of Europa League to worry about. And I think Nottingham Forest, being a really good international tournament type of team previously, I think they'll put a lot of stock into that as well, because I don't think they'll be anywhere close to the same levels they were last season in the Premier League. So I think that will focus more on the Europa League. I think that will make them be worse off in the league, and I think they're going to end up at 13th for that reason. For my favorite target there, I have Sels in goal, 5.0. I know a lot of people, or most people, are looking at their defenders mainly rather than their goalkeeper. Most people seem to be on Sanchez rather than Sels. But I think one of the things that people aren't really thinking about, people are thinking about defensive contribution points. That's the only thing people think about almost. But there's also been another change in terms of the bonus points, and shots conceded in the box that are saved will be worth 3 BPS rather than 2 BPS now, which is going to benefit Sels, because Nottingham Forest is one of the teams that concede the most shots from inside the box compared to outside the box, and they don't really concede that many goals either. And I think they'll be even more like shored up defensively because they're going to struggle more offensively. So I think they will be faced with a lot of shots on target, and I think Sels will get a lot of save points and a lot of bonus points from that as well. So I think he's actually a really good option for 5.0. But the defenders are really good as well. I've gone Murillo slightly ahead of Nico Williams, just because of that slight uncertainty about Nico Williams' playing time. But I think if Nico Williams plays the whole season at left back for Forest, I think he'll be the best defensive option there for 5.0. But Murillo, just a defensive contributions monster. I think he also has untapped potential when it comes to goal scoring. I think he's a really good option in general. And these 3 players, especially Sels, who I already have in my squad or have had in my squad the whole time, and also these 2 defenders, are players that I'm really, really considering in my FPL team. But yeah, Nottingham Forest is going to be good defensively. Offensively, maybe not so much. Chris Wood sort of seemed to hit like his peak at the start of last season. He's going to struggle a bit more this season, I think. And I think they're going to end up at 13th place overall in the end, Nottingham Forest. Number 12, we have Brighton, who had surprisingly a good season last season. They ended up 8th somehow. I don't really know, because they had some really bad matches, including the 7-0 loss or 0-7 loss against Nottingham Forest, for example, which is kind of crazy. But somehow they found themselves in the top half and had their best finish ever in the Premier League. So Hurstler has gotten something right, and they've gotten another season now of pretty much the same squad. They haven't really lost any huge, really good players, apart from Joao Pedro, of course, which is going to be a big downside for them. But they do have some other options, namely Jorginho, who I think is going to be pretty good as potentially a striker for them. It seems like he might be the new number 9 for Brighton, because Welbeck hasn't really played much this preseason, and that makes him a really nice option for 6.0 in midfield as well. I think he can be a really nice option, but I don't really quite like the starting fixtures for Brighton, so I'm going to wait and see a little bit with Jorginho and see if he plays, Jorginho Rutter that is, and see if he plays as much as I think he will be at the start of the season, pretty much. The Cowper at left back is going to play most matches there. I don't really think the left back or the full back for Brighton is going to be as good as we expect them to, because Hurstler and Estepinian didn't really get many points from that position last season, and Estepinian is so good offensively as well. So I think it will be sort of the same with the Cowper, even though he scored in preseason. Maybe he'll be a good pick in terms of scoring a lot of goals, but I think it's going to be more like okay. Like, he's going to get a couple attacking returns, but I'm not sure if he's like the best 4.5 defender for that matter. But he's still a really good option, who I think could be really good in the right times as well, when they have really nice matches, pretty much, which is not the start of the season. So yeah, I would avoid him from the start of the season, but I think, like with any Brighton player, they are very much in consideration once the season picks up. And I think once we see how good Brighton actually are in the second season under Hurstler, I think it can go sort of both ways. They can go further down, they can go further up in the table. Really hard to predict sort of Brighton, but at the same time, also kind of easy to predict them mid-table, because they are sort of like a mid-table club in general. So 12 for Brighton. Baleba as well, just got to mention him. He's one of my favorite players to watch in the Premier League. He's so fun in terms of defensive midfielders, at least. Just another in the line of defensive midfielders at Brighton who are really fun to watch and are really good. It seems like they're getting progressively better, because I think Baleba has an even higher potential than Caicedo as well, who's been fantastic and was sold for 100+ million. So yeah, Baleba is fantastic. I think he also has some potentially really good goal scoring season ahead as well, because I think he has the potential to be much better offensively and be sort of more box to box and get involved in terms of goals. So Baleba, someone really to watch out for. Someone I think Manchester United, they should really make those transfer rumors be real and try to sign him and get him for next season at least, because he's a really nice player overall. Number 11, we have Fulham. Just a really solid team. I think, again, a team that is pretty simple to put in that mid-table sort of area. Really solid defensively. They had Marco Silva for several seasons now. They have a pretty set squad in general. Some really nice players that are just guaranteed Premier League experience and good players in general. Really solid defensively. They have some nice players offensively as well. We'll see what happens with their new signings or their new... They haven't really had many signings. That's the drawback this season. But their new players, Josh King, for example, who's a 4.5 midfielder, could be really good. Could be like one of the new stars this season. But I haven't listed him as one of my 3 top picks in FPL. First and foremost, I have Joachim Andersen in defense. He's been really good in the past. Was priced at 5.0 in one season after he had a really nice goal scoring season the season prior. But he also has really good defensive contributions numbers in general. The same goes for Robinson, who had a lot of assists last season and also is pretty good for defensive contributions points. Him and Neco Williams are like the 2 fullbacks that get quite a lot of defensive contribution points. So Robinson is someone that is definitely in consideration. Sadly, is injured to start the season, so you can't really go for him now. But eventually, especially also when Fulham's fixtures get better, Robinson's going to be a really nice option there for 5.0 in defense. Up front, Raul Jimenez is their starting striker for 6.5. He is, just a really good, solid striker, and he showed kind of to be back to his best last season for Fulham. Back to his good old Wolves days when he was so reliable and got points every single game week. I think Raul can be sort of the same thing. Raul Jimenez could be sort of the same thing again this season for Fulham. So yeah, just a really solid team. 11th seems like a really solid finish to the season. So yeah, I have Fulham going 11th this season overall. Number 10, we have Crystal Palace, which is a team that I've, again, been sort of tempted to have higher, sort of tempted to put lower down as well. It's kind of hard to know, especially with all the transfer dealings that they might have. We know Eze is being hunted down by both Arsenal and Spurs. We know Guehi is sort of angling towards a move to Liverpool as his contract runs out in a year. So there's a lot of like uncertainty with Crystal Palace, but especially if they keep all their players, I think they can push on and be fighting for those Europe spots. But if they lose Eze and Guehi, for example, they could be in the relegation battle even. So yeah, even Mateta, who's one of my other favorite players from Palace, he's also linked away with a move to potentially Newcastle or one of these other teams that will need a new striker pretty much. So yeah, Palace could go anywhere really, but they almost always finish in this section around 9th to 12th. So that's what I'm going to do once again. They'll find a way with Gloucester probably to recuperate any losses that they will have in terms of selling players as well. So yeah. When it comes to their best assets, I think Mateta is the best asset for me, especially seeing as he might be on penalties. He took a penalty and scored twice in the Community Shield, both in the penalty shootout and in the game. He scored a penalty, and Eze missed his only penalty in the penalty shootout. So might be Mateta on penalties. That's why I have him slightly ahead of Eze currently. They're the same price, but they are both really good options, of course. Eze, more of a slow burn. He usually starts the season a bit slowly and then comes along as the season comes along, as Palace come along as well. We'll see what happens if he stays with Palace or not. That's the main question for him. Finally, Munoz in defense. A lot of good defenders that you can choose here. Munoz for 5.5 with the attacking threat. You have Lacroix at 5.0 with the defensive contributions potential. And you have Guehi at 4.5 with the potential move to Liverpool as well. So 3 really good Palace defenders that you can choose that could be really good value this season. So yeah, definitely players to consider. Munoz just plays so offensively. Defensive contributions be damned. He is someone that could get a lot of offensive contributions, which is way more fun to watch as well. And it's going to be more interesting to do or to have in your squad rather than someone that gets 2 to 4 points every single game week and gets 4 points more consistently than Munoz gets. But yeah, that's kind of boring. So yeah, I think Munoz is more fun. Really good option for 5.5 in defense. Even though his price is higher now, I still think he's worth it and is probably going to be in my team this season at some point. Number 9, we have Newcastle. And again, a lot of uncertainty when it comes to their players and who they're going to keep, namely Alexander Isak, their main striker. He has now basically gone out, or it's been leaked that he never wants to play for Newcastle ever again, even if they don't sell him, even if he stays beyond the transfer deadline. He doesn't want to play for Newcastle ever again. It's just kind of crazy for me. I don't really understand that. I think it's, I don't think much of it really. I've been a pretty big fan of Isak, but I don't really like that move in general. But he's going to be a major factor to how good Newcastle are this season, because without him, they're going to struggle massively. They're also in the Champions League, where they're also going to struggle massively without Isak, and that's also going to take away energy from their Premier League campaign, as we saw when they were last in the Champions League. And they struggled and fell behind a little bit. So I think Newcastle will have one of the biggest drop-offs this season in terms of going from, 5th to 9th. They're going to struggle, especially if they lose Isak and they don't replace him. Or if they struggle to replace him, basically, because now all the options seem to go elsewhere. It seems like just Newcastle, they can't get anyone. Maybe they'll get, or it seems like they might be getting Jacob Ramsey now from Aston Villa, which would be interesting. Without Isak, they're going to struggle a lot. But if Isak stays, which I think is the most likely option, he probably just stays. Newcastle refuses to sell this season because he has a pretty long contract still. He stays. And he's not going to want to sit out the whole season. Maybe he wants to do like Osimhen, gets loaned out to Galatasaray or something like that. But I think he's going to end up playing for Newcastle this season as well, which is going to be interesting to see, especially how the crowd reacts to him. And I think it's going to be a good option when that's the case. So yeah, he's still my favorite option for Newcastle, but he might not play for Newcastle. We'll see what happens with him. Elanga, I think, is a really good player. He was really nice at Nottingham Forest last season. I think also, especially if Isak doesn't play, Elanga, and I think Newcastle will just set up a lot more defensively and go for counterattacks, especially with Elanga there having so much pace. Of course, they have Murphy and stuff last season, who also has a lot of pace, but Elanga is even more cutthroat when it comes to scoring goals and being an offensive menace. So I think they're going to have to rely a lot on counterattacks and be really defensive. So I think defensively they're going to be good, and offensively they're going to rely on counterattacks, like I just said, and Elanga will be the benefit or the beneficiary of that. But Gordon, of course, as well for 7.5 is also a good option at forward if he playing as a forward potentially if Isak doesn't play. But I think Isak will stay, and I think Elanga will be a pretty good option next to him if that's the case, the other Swedish player that they have, pretty much. Lewis Hall as well, kind of like not talked about that much because Newcastle don't have the best fixtures early on, but Lewis Hall is really good. He was a mainstay in the team last season when he was around 5.0 mark. Now he's 5.5, which is a bit steep, but at the same time, I think Newcastle have really good defensive potential. They got Tia in defense as well now. They have even more defenders to choose from for the Champions League campaign as well. They have a lot of more players to choose from in defense. So I think they'll be really solid defensively this season in general. So yeah, that's going to be enough for 9th place for Newcastle, I think. Number 8, Manchester United, a bit high. Looking at it right now, I'm like, okay, why do I have Manchester United above Newcastle and Crystal Palace, for example? But yeah, they just have signed so many good players. It has to work, surely. Like Cunha coming in, Mbeumo coming in, Šeško coming in up front now as well. They made so many signings, and they're still looking to make more signings. It just has to work. Usually that's how it works as well. In terms of just throwing enough money at a problem, you'll fix that problem. We've seen that with Chelsea, and I think we can see that same thing again with Manchester United as well, especially buying Premier League proven players like they have done so far this season. So yeah, 8th, a little bit high, I think. They could go higher potentially just because they have so many talented players, but we'll see what happens with Amorim. I'm really curious to see. It's one of the toughest teams to predict this season. They could go and be struggling again like last season, or they could go and compete with like the 5th, 6th spots, I think. Maybe competing for a Champions League spot, but yeah, really hard to predict, but I think they have enough firepower to get it done, basically. One of the main guys is Bruno Fernandes, who's going to be helped a lot by defensive contribution points. This is the sort of defensive contribution points player that I like better. It's one that you're going to play every single game week. That's my biggest fear when it comes to defensive contribution points. I think it's going to be a lot of benched DEFCON points from the start of the season, and people are going to be super tired of it straight away. But Bruno Fernandes, you're going to start him in every game, whether that's Liverpool away or Burnley at home. He's going to play every game for you, most likely, because you don't want to bench Bruno Fernandes. And that means he'll pick up every single defensive contribution points in your squad as well. He's going to be your starter, and that's going to help him immensely this season. So yeah, he is a pretty good player for 9.0, even though the fixtures to start the season aren't the best. So I'm looking more to get him in like game week 6, just about that time. And I'm going to free hit in game week 3 to bring him in against Burnley as well. So I'll have him covered, basically. Cunha as well, I think he's going to be really, really good. He hasn't really done much in preseason so far, but I don't think preseason is the end-all be-all when it comes to production in the Premier League. He just has so much talent. I'm a huge fan of Matheus Cunha, not only because his first name is pretty close to my own, but also because he is, just shown time and time again, he has so much class. He has so much potential to score from really tough angles and all that stuff. So I think he's going to be a really nice player, especially once Man United get going and get some points or get some easier matches and can get some goals as well for Cunha and the other offensive players that they do have. Also like Patrick Dorgu, who seems to be the nailed-on left wing-back for Manchester United for 4.5. That's a really nice price for a super attacking player who's going to be really involved offensively. He showed some nice attacking potential, so I quite like Dorgu as the main guy there in defense for Manchester United. So he's the final pick that I have from the Manchester United squad, who will end number 8 this season in my predictions at least. Then we go to Everton at number 7. Again, a bit of a surprise, I guess, for most people. Everton they have struggled a lot in recent years, but now they have David Moyes. And I just have a lot of faith in David Moyes, especially with the signings that they've done now. Grealish is the newest signing on loan. We've seen that in the past. Jesse Lingard was amazing for West Ham and helped propel West Ham to be in these places, 6th, 7th, around that place. And I think Everton will really benefit from that. Of course, I made this, I finalized this table prediction before the recent news that Brentford got injured at the start of the season. That's a bit of a downer for Everton, of course, because Brentford is so good and such a huge part of why they're good defensively. But I think he'll be back eventually, and that will help them be good defensively and also have some nice firepower offensively as well with Grealish and those guys coming in. Tierno Barry starting up front. Also, Beto looked a lot better under David Moyes, and Yaya looked a lot better under David Moyes. Yeah, I think they're just going to have the Moyes effect help them be in that top half of the table. And I think just like Manchester United, Newcastle, Crystal Palace, Fulham, there's just too many question marks around them. I think Everton are just solid. They've had the same team or a lot of the same key players for a little while now, and I think David Moyes is going to get the best out of them, basically. Tarkowski is one of those players who is someone that gets points consistently from defensive contributions. If you want to get him from the start of the season and play him every single game, I think that makes sense. But personally, I don't feel too excited about starting Tarkowski against Liverpool away, for example, because you can get those defensive contribution points. I think it's just, I don't know, there's something about it. But I think he's going to be a really good player overall this season. Someone you can, just set and forget, basically. Even though he's not the most exciting player because he's not going to get that many attacking returns. He's going to be a slow burn that's going to help you if you just keep faith in him, and if Everton start off the season better than they have done the past few seasons, because usually they start off the first 8 game weeks atrociously, and then they sort of get things together. But now with David Moyes, I think they'll start the season better and be a decent team to watch from the start of the season. Jack Grealish as well for 6.5. Really like him. I think he can be, like I said, with Jesse Lingard, could be like a talisman who all of a sudden is back to his best. We know how good he was at Aston Villa. He was definitely worth more than 6.5 when he was at Aston Villa, and I think he can reach those same heights eventually for Everton. From the start of the season, we'll probably go with Dewsbury Hall instead, who is a cheaper option at 5.0, as Grealish works himself back in fitness, as I'm sure he will have to, because he kind of tends to like to do other stuff than play football as well. But I think eventually he's going to be really good for Everton and going to help them be 7th place in the league in the end. Speaking of NDI in the end, that was a bad pun. Iliman NDI is also another really good option, of course. He's on penalties. He's actually okay when it comes to defensive contribution points. And he's a really talented player. We call him Skilleman for a reason, because he's just really fun to watch and really fun player to have in FPL in general. So I don't really begrudge people having him, even though I'm not sure he's worth the 6.5 when you had other options at around that price point. But yeah, he's still going to be pretty good. He's going to have some super high scoring games as well this season, so he's going to be really explosive. And he's someone that you can definitely consider for Game Week 1 and for the rest of the season as well. NDI, he is a pretty good player overall. Number 6, let's go to Spurs. Again, one of the biggest risers this season, just because Thomas Frank is there, and they also just have a really good squad, I think, in general, or a decent squad at least. They have some really nice players in general. I think Thomas Frank is a really good manager, and I think Spurs will be pretty hard to beat this season, and will have some nice players that could be a lot better than they were last season. Namely, Solanke, who was injured a lot last season. He's been really good in the past for Bournemouth. I think he can reach those same heights with Thomas Frank, who's perfect for a striker, because he's shown that with Ivan Toney and Brian Mbeumo and Johan Vissa in the past. He knows how to get the best out of his main men offensively. So yeah, Solanke is my favorite option at Spurs. Tottenham. At 7.5, in terms of being a forward. He's also going to be on penalties now, with Son leaving or having left already for MLS. So I think Solanke is going to be a really solid option who could get those 15 to 20 type goal. That can have that 15 to 20 type goal type season, is what I try to say. Romero, I think, is also kind of underrated. He's been named the captain now. I'm the captain now, Romero. He was linked with a move away from Spurs, but I think he's sort of been sold on the Thomas Frank project, and I think he's actually the best defender you can choose from Spurs as well. People are going with 4.5, Van de Ven, they're going with 5.5. Pedro Porro, I think Romero is the best of both worlds. I think he's going to have a much better season when it comes to defensive contribution points. We've seen that with Thomas Frank and how Collins, for example, at Brentford became much better at defensive contribution points under the tutelage of Thomas Frank with Brentford. And I think the same can happen with Romero, who is actually a really good defensive contribution points player with Conte in the first season of Conte, basically. So, yeah, I think Romero has good potential for defensive contribution points. He's also someone that can pop up with the odd goal and here and there. He's also sort of cut down on the red cards, at least the last few seasons as well. So if he stays fit, I think he's the best defender for Spurs, and they have really good fixtures to start the season as well. So I think Romero is actually a really viable option for that price. Third in the players from Spurs, I have Kudus still, just because of that untapped potential that he might have still. As a West Ham fan, I was pretty enamored by him in his first season. He was really good and a pretty good FPL option at that. And then the second season, meaning last season, he was just absolutely terrible. So we'll see what happens with Kudus under the right manager, like Thomas Frank might be. I think he is for Spurs. I think Kudus can flourish, but at the same time, Spurs are also being linked to both Savinho and Eze, so maybe Kudus' playtime will go down, especially once Kulusevski comes into the team. So yeah, I'm not completely sold on Kudus, but he has a lot of potential and could be a really nice player for Spurs. So yeah, he is the third option for Spurs which is a team that I have number 6 in the table. Number 5, we have Aston Villa, which is a team that I like quite a lot. They haven't really made much interesting signings. They sold Ramsey now, and they've signed Guessant at right wing. So yeah, that's probably an upgrade, even though they've gained money from that. But at the same time, they've kept their best players in Morgan Rodgers and Ollie Watkins. Ollie Watkins is firing on all cylinders in preseason. Rodgers has been injured lately, but it seems like he's going to make game week 1, hopefully. Fingers crossed. He's back in training now, it seems like. So with the best players back for Villa, also no Champions League to worry about like last season, I think they're going to have a really solid season and be closer to being top 4 than lower than 5. So I think they're a pretty secure 5th place team for me. I would not be surprised to see that being one of the main things that I got correct in this table, but those are famous last words. They might be doing completely differently this season. But yeah, Unai Emery is fantastic, of course. They're going to focus on Europa League, of course, with Unai Emery. That's usually what he does. That's what he does really well. Even though they didn't win the Conference League, because that's a much tougher tournament to win, actually, as a West Ham fan, compared to the Europa League, which Spurs can win, basically. It's like it's nothing. But anyways, Aston Villa, just a really solid team. I think 5th place is a pretty easy choice for me with Aston Villa. They could even go as high as 4th, I think, above Chelsea. They'll struggle to be in the top 3. I spoiled my 4th pick there, by the way. But yeah, they're going to be struggling to go into the top 3 with City, Arsenal, and Liverpool in some order in the top 3 there. But yeah, Rodgers is my favorite asset from Aston Villa. 7.0 is just too good value, 2 million less than Watkins. I think that's just absolutely fantastic value for a really good player. And I think Watkins is also a really, really nice player. He was someone that I said pretty early on this season that I think was underrated in terms of like his price point is a bit high, and people just say that he's like, oh, typical modern striker who's not as good as they were back in the day. But Watkins is really good. Like, yes, he misses a couple of big chances and stuff, but who doesn't really? He just creates a lot of chances for himself and others. As we saw like 2 seasons ago when he had a lot of assists. He's just a really solid player overall. And yeah, he's underrated, I think, in general. And he's now being properly rated in FPL, and people are choosing him. I'm actually going without him currently as it stands, just because Rodgers is in my team instead, but I'm definitely planning on bringing him in for Game Week 5 onwards when they have really, really good matches. So yeah, Watkins is also a really good option for Aston Villa. Then we have Ian Maatsen, who I think is going to play most matches in defense for Aston Villa. I think he's going to be the main starter at left back, and that means he's going to go forward and get some points when it comes to attacking returns. Aston Villa just aren't good for defensive contributions in general because they have such a high line, and they are a team that like to have the ball themselves. So there's just not many potential games to get defensive contribution points. So I don't think Konsa is the best pick at 4.5. I think Maatsen is a better pick, especially once he proves that he's going to be pretty much nailed at left back, I think, this season. And he has a lot of good offensive potential, as he's shown in the past, especially for Dortmund on loan there. So I think he can be a really nice option for 4.5 for Aston Villa, who I think will finish at the 5th place in the Premier League and get Champions League once again the next following season after this one. Number 4, we have Chelsea. Like I said, spoiled that already. They do have a lot of good options in FPL, especially with their good opening fixtures. They could go higher potentially. Maybe they'll break into the top 3. But I think they're still a little bit below the other 3 teams that are higher up than them in the table currently. But yeah, Palmer is obviously really good. He's my favorite option for Chelsea. He's always been good in FPL since he started playing for Chelsea. That's going to be the case again this season. Joao Pedro has been playing a lot in preseason and scoring a lot in preseason. He is a bit capped when it comes to playing time though, because Rory Delap is ready to come in and play. But he can also play all over the pitch, or not all over the pitch, but attacking wise in those other positions offensively. And at the wing still, Chelsea, they haven't signed Xavi Simons yet. Joao Pedro might be playing on the left wing or right wing as well a couple times and be switched down from a forward to like a right wing or left wing. He doesn't necessarily have to be subbed off for Delap either. So yeah, I think minutes-wise, he's far from ideal, but he is better than expected at least as well. So yeah, I think he's going to play quite a lot, and he's a really good player, even though he's lost penalties. Being a Chelsea player now, he has shown in preseason that he can score from pretty much everywhere and be a pretty good player. So I quite like him for 7.5 in general. Also quite like Cucurella at 6.0. Both these players, Joao Pedro and Cucurella, are people that I'm like considering, but they're just like right below the threshold for where I need them to be for me to have them in my squad currently. But yeah, they're both really good picks, and I think Chelsea are just a pretty simple choice at number 4. I don't think any of the top 3 are going to drop down. I don't think City will have as bad of a season as last season. I think Arsenal are much better than people give them credit for, as you'll see eventually. And Liverpool, of course, are the champions, and they strengthen their team massively already, even if they don't get Isak or Guehi. But if they get both of those guys, that's going to be an interesting Premier League season for sure for them. But yeah, Chelsea at number 4. Let's move on to number 3. That's going to be Manchester City. Still have Liverpool and Arsenal cut above Manchester City, but Manchester City have the potential to be number 1 once again. We know they have Pep Guardiola, the best manager in the world, at their disposal. They have a lot of good talents. They've spent a lot of money refurbishing their squad, basically. A lot of nice players. Cherky is going to be really nice to watch. Reinders is fantastic. He was almost he was like a late scratch from like the top 3 suggestions, but I just really wanted to talk about the third player here, which I'm going to get to eventually. You might be kind of wondering why I have Rodri as the third best City option, but I'll explain it thoroughly pretty soon. But my best option is Haaland eventually. For me, from Game Week 6, I'm going to try to get him in. He's going to be really good when City have good matches this season. So yeah, at his best, he's going to be fantastic and someone that is must-have, I think, because he is going to score 20-plus goals, as he always does in the league. 25-plus goals could really be in play. 30-plus goals could also be in play. We know how good Haaland can be, especially when City are at their best and have the type of talent that they have now, including someone like Marmoush, who is fantastic, who I think will have a really good season. Tempted to start the season with him, but he's just a bit too pricey for how good the fixtures are for Man City. So yeah, staying away currently, but he's someone that I'm pretty sure I'm going to have for big parts of the season. He's someone that I'm a huge fan of, and I quite like him for 8.5. But now Rodri, I was close to having Reinders for 5.5. I think he's going to be a really good option as well, and scoring a lot of goals and stuff. But Rodri, the thing with Rodri is the fact that he is still 6.5, which is kind of crazy, because we've seen the likes of Bruno Fernandes, who's gotten a price rise despite having like a meh season last season. We've seen Tarkowski and these other centre-backs getting a price rise because we expect them to have good defensive contribution numbers this season, a new thing from previous seasons. Defensive contribution points haven't really been a thing, but do you know who's really good at defensive contribution points? Rodri. He is insane when it comes to defensive contribution points, at least until this last the Ballon d'Or season that he had, when he had 10 goals and 9 assists or something crazy like that. Like, either he's going to get a lot of goals and assists, or he's going to get a lot of defensive contribution points, and he's going to be worth more than that 6.5 price tag. So yes, he's injured to start the season. We're going to have to wait until he plays every single game 90 minutes, because that's what you need for defensive contribution points. But once that happens, which I assume it will at some point, he's going to be a set and forget player you can have in your squad, basically like a cheat code for 6.5, like a player you can start every single game week against every single opposition, because City can score against anyone, really, can get defensive contribution points against anyone as well. Rodri, he gets so many ball recoveries. He's just insane when it comes to defensive contribution points. But I think FPL just have forgotten to adjust for players that weren't playing last season. Like, Rodri has no numbers from last season when it comes to defensive contribution points, because he played like 46 minutes or something in total last season. But the season prior to that, he was absolutely amazing. I think he's like the past 3 seasons before the injury-riddled season last time around, I think he's like averaging like 160-ish points with defensive contribution points added on top of that. So yeah, he's just going to be way too good value for 6.5. I think he should have been adjusted up to 7.0 or at least. 7.5 maybe as well. Like, he's not too far off like the numbers that he had in his Ballon d'Or season, granted, and he's now injured, which is why he should be lower price. But like, the points he would have gotten in that season prior to being injured is Bruno Fernandes levels, and Bruno Fernandes is 9.0, so I think Rodri is a bit of a cheat code, but of course the uncertainty of his minutes and stuff means that I can't really put him higher, and I also really like Holland and Marmoush eventually this season as well. So yeah, really good options there for Man City, but I think again they'll finish third because the other two teams are slightly better in my opinion. And again, I'm gonna go a bit rogue, and I'm gonna have Liverpool second place, which means Arsenal first, which I think a lot of people will be kind of shocked by, but for me, it just has to happen at some point. Like, I've had Arsenal. I'm not even an Arsenal fan. I'm a West Ham fan. But yeah, they just have so many good young players that I think will be better and better. Yeah, I'm going to get Arsenal. Don't worry about that. But Liverpool, obviously, the huge title favorites, especially if they get Isak or Guehi. But I think it's going to be a bit more of a struggle for Slot in his second season. We've seen this in the past with Klopp teams. They're really good after Klopp leaves. Maybe there's something about his managing style that gets like a bit taxing, and maybe you feel a bit freer the next season onwards, or the next season. But after that, teams start to struggle a bit once Klopp leaves their team. So yeah, I think Slot will have a tougher season this time around. People will be more ready to see ready for what's to come from Liverpool. And I also think they'll have a bit of a downside when it comes to losing Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think it's a bit underrated how much he gave Liverpool offensively. I'm a huge fan of his. In general, people are just always slating him for being bad defensively and stuff, but I think he was a huge factor in their offensive play, basically. But they have replaced him well with some nice Bundesliga talents, which we'll get to. Salah is my favorite option, of course, from Liverpool, because he is just that consistent and gets 250 plus, 300 plus points in FPL. He's fantastic even for 14.5. But yeah, Frimpong, one of the players, he is the direct replacement for Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's super offensively minded, gets a lot of goals and assists. He is someone that I really like, even from the start of the season as well, with Bradley slightly injured. I think he's going to be a really nice differential for 6.0, so I think he's someone that you should really pay attention to. Florian Wirtz as well, fantastic player. He's going to play every single game for Liverpool. He's going to be a really steady player at 8.5. Not too enamored by the first like 3 fixtures for Liverpool, especially, and even like the first 12 aren't that good for Liverpool. So staying away from Wirtz at the start of the season personally, but I think eventually he's going to be really good with consistent minutes, some set pieces, and just really being a really good player overall as well. So yeah, he's my third favorite option for Liverpool, who I think will finish second, mainly because I think sorry, I'm losing my voice here as I'm I'm choking already, as Arsenal are going to choke away the first place potentially. But yeah, I have Arsenal first over Liverpool, because Arsenal, they finally got their striker now in Gyökeres, who is also my favorite option from Arsenal. They were really unlucky when it comes to injuries and just like bad things happening at the start of last season with red cards. The red card against Brighton with Declan Rice, complete bullshit in my opinion. And then also the red card for Trossard as well, kind of like stupid red card there against City. They just had some really tough breaks to start the season. Ødegaard getting injured and then subsequently being really bad last season. I think he's going to be a much better player this season with Gyökeres in front of him. Saka getting injured, affecting him loads. Havertz getting injured, not having a striker in general, with Jesus also out. They just had a lot of things going against them last season, and they have such a young squad. They're all going to be better and better. Gabriel is really good, of course. Saka is really good. He's getting better and better. Gyökeres has come in. He's going to get better and better. Subimendi is a huge plus to Arsenal. I think they're just being slept on in general this season. I think they're going to have a really nice start to the season, and I think they will be tough to catch eventually. So yeah, they are my prediction for number 1 overall. And part of that is also because they have really good FPL assets as well. Gyökeres is my first option at 9.0. I think he's going to bang in goals. I think he's a really talented striker. He's shown that for Sweden, being at the same level as Alexander Isak basically for Sweden. I think he's going to score a lot of goals for Arsenal. Gabriel, so solid defensively. I think Arsenal will get the most clean sheets this season because they have such a nice defense that is still growing, still getting better in Gabriel and Saliba, still young players getting better. And they're already really, really good. Bukayo Saka as well, fantastic player, fantastic FPL option still, even if he loses penalties to Gyökeres, which I think he will, because I think Gyökeres is kind of selfish when it comes to penalties, and Saka is kind of unselfish. So yeah, but Saka is still a really good option as well. So yeah, that is it. Basically, I'm almost choking away because I've been talking a lot for 50 minutes now. So I probably should end the video right there. So yeah, but anyways, watch out for my video tomorrow with the best player at each and every price point in FPL. And then finally, I'll have my team reveal for the Friday video before the game launches, or the season launches, or season starts with the deadline at Friday. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, whether you were a Premier League fan watching for the table prediction, or if you're an FPL fan watching for the FPL tips, or if you're a little bit of both. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you also enjoyed me choking through Arsenal getting first place this season. Maybe this will be the year. We'll see. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.